As a young man, I was escorted by a corrections officer into the prison. A series of gates opened and closed as we went deeper into the facility. Eventually, we entered the manufacturing plant where prisoners processed license plates. I was now in the heart of the Big House in Jackson, Michigan, at one time the largest walled prison in the world. What I did not know then was this was my introduction to the prison industrial complex. Those hoping that you'll hear the story of a bad boy done well will be disappointed. My introduction to prison manufacturing occurred in the early 1980s in work as a machine repair apprentice. I was assigned to repair a stamping press at a local prison used to produce license plates sold through the Michigan Secretary of State offices. My early 20s self did not give much thought to the use of incarcerated individuals for manufacturing. Fast forward 40 plus years later, my current work focuses on helping the manufacturing sector close the employment gap, currently at 500,000 unfilled jobs that are estimated to grow upward of 4 million over the next 10 years as baby boomers retire. While looking for alternative labor pools, I came across what I saw as a dehumanizing approach used by some to produce products for their companies. Recent research led to my discovery that we incarcerate 2.2 million adults in prisons in the U.S. The rate is the highest level for any country globally, including totalitarian nations of the Philippines and Russia, and the larger countries of China and India. We spend $80 billion to house these individuals, $12 billion more than education funding. The jail system in the United States houses another 731,000 individuals in 3,000 jails with annual admissions of about 12 million. 60% of those in jails are never found guilty of a crime. 70% are in for nonviolent crimes. Many of those jailed are dealing with social issues of homelessness, mental illness, poverty, school failure, and substance abuse. Furthermore, research has found that the jail system creates significant hardship that creates a downward negative cycle, costly to both the individual's circle of influence and our society. The negative impacts of this broken criminal justice approach become a feeder for prisons. How does a nation that prides itself on freedom have the most imprisoned citizens in the world? Worse yet, our current form of punishment for an individual convicted of a crime is an exception to the 13th U.S. constitutional amendment that otherwise abolished slavery, ultimately allowing a brutal and dehumanizing version of slavery to continue to exist. Again, how in 2021 do we as members of society find this practice acceptable? The Malta Justice Initiative is a Connecticut-based prison ministry working throughout the U.S. and Canada. The organization focused on 12 major corporations that benefit from employing prison labor. Paying as few as pennies per hour, these companies realize significant labor savings. These are just a few of the thousands in the U.S. businesses utilizing prison labor to produce their products, often at a wage of less than $1 per day. As I dug deeper, I realized that what I had experienced in the 1980s was defined as the prison industrial complex. A more accurate descriptor could be the prison slavery complex. Major corporations achieve a more robust bottom line through this legal, yet unethical practice from my perspective. I'm not the first person with ideas about best utilizing the time spent for those in prison. The Michigan Department of Corrections industrial approach was a model prison that began in 1924 in Jackson, my former hometown, a resulting massive 57-acre complex with 5,500 prisoners that led to the Big House moniker, a different Big House than the name some use for the stadium of the Michigan football team. The Big House industrial model was developed to utilize prisoners to produce goods for sustainability and rehabilitation. Unfortunately, the Great Depression derailed the effort as widespread unemployment made it difficult to justify investment in producing and distributing prison-made goods. Prison riots in the 1952 in Jackson were another blow as the prison factory to prisoners ward shift occurred. From 1973 to 2006, the Michigan prison population grew 5,000%, from 8,000 to more than 52,000. By 2018, employed prisoners had dwindled from a past high of 75% down to just 2% in Michigan prisons. A further difficulty is that the effort netted a positive cash flow in only 20% of the employment settings. Despite the minuscule prisoner wages. While to this point the results had been unfavorable, there have been success stories. In training inmates through industrial work participation, the data demonstrates that work programs that allowed inmates to accumulate money were more successful post-release. The study recommends providing incentives to find a job, as some only lived on prison transitional aid. Unfortunately, those who remain employed post-release tended to be in low-wage and low-skilled jobs in extensive manufacturing facilities. The data collected on 7,000 offenders between 1983 and 1987 in these less desirable work situations found that these particular programs designed to improve post-release skills had failed to enhance employment opportunities. While skills are essential, programs to educate prisoners with tools to address their psychological and social needs also are necessary. A study looked at the impact of post-secondary education on the rehabilitation of the formerly incarcerated. The particular area of interest for me was that of vocational curriculums. Unfortunately, many study participants had difficulty reintegrating into society. Part of the researchers' result was poor social integration skills for the research participants, was suggested in addition to the program curriculum. Men were generally social aggressive, while women were introverted. Life skills training would be necessary for both genders. A holistic approach to reentry and education would provide individuals a better opportunity to reenter society successfully. We all know that everyone in prison is innocent, right? However, the reality is that some are less innocent than others. I don't know about the rest of you, but I could have been doing time for a couple of different things in the moment, dumb decisions. Once while I was driving, I bent over to pick something up and fallen onto the floor, taking my eyes off the road for just a couple of seconds. When I looked up, someone was walking alongside the road, and it seemed like only inches from my vehicle. Had I hit and killed that person with my truck, I would have spent time in prison. Instead, I've been blessed with a remarkable life. Thankfully, some companies see them as humans with unmet potential. They've chosen to make a difference in the lives of those with a troubled past. If you're a fan of Ben & Jerry's ice cream like me and consume flavors that include brownies, well, you've experienced the benefit of the open hiring program at Greyston Bakery. Those wondering how they could create opportunities to expand their ability to employ the formerly incarcerated should visit the Greyston Bakery Center for Open Hiring website. The company has been highly successful with employees that others would consider unemployable, turning them away, and instead they don't see them as drug addicts with criminal records. They see it as an opportunity to complete an apprenticeship. Once hired, Greyston provides them with access to community services and assistance to enhance the potential for employee success. In addition, they now work with other companies to determine their readiness assessment, a plan for stakeholder engagement, an open hiring program, and to develop the open operational practices necessary for a successful employment plan. Cascades Engineering is another manufacturing company giving second chances. They work to break the trend where 30% of those returning from prison are reincarcerated in 3 years. The statistics show that having a job helps to reduce this potential. The company has chosen not to ask applicants if they have been convicted of crime. Their commitment to inclusion means giving everyone an equal chance for success. Nehemiah Manufacturing Company further works at fixing societal wrongs by helping the formerly incarcerated with opportunities for second chances to find purpose and substantial employment post-release. The company was founded in 2009 by a team of seasoned consumer good packaging executives with a mission to make a difference. They're also working to revitalize the inner city of Cincinnati, one of the many cities that experienced significant economic damage when manufacturing operations left town in the pursuit of cheaper labor. To show that this can work outside of the manufacturing industry, Televerde is a company that helps its customers to build relationships with targeted prospects, or better known as a call center. The business model includes investment in the human potential of the women incarcerated at the Perryville, Arizona, and the Rockville, Indiana correction centers. These are part of 200,000 imprisoned women in the United States. These include some that had a momentary lapse in judgment that did not have a favorable outcome for them. Televerdi sees them as aunts, daughters, grandmothers, mothers, sisters, and wives that want to do something to make their families proud. They hire and train these women to work in their call centers with success. There is a less than 5.5% recidivism rate. 25% of the graduates continue to work with them upon release from prison, and 40% of those employed at the Phoenix corporate offices are former inmates. Their success is the previously recommended holistic approach that prepares the whole woman for reentry in employment. Call centers can be an undesirable employment option for many. Still, in this case, they're making a noble difference in moving these women from prisoners to contributing members of society. While some have stepped up to lessen the negative impact of a United States society with excessive incarceration, much more work is necessary. Unfortunately, we first failed to establish fair and just practices, seeing that all citizens have an equal opportunity to realize the American dream. Instead, the current solution is to punish, often those incarcerated in the prison system, by using them as modern-day slaves to reduce corporate labor cost. We have a collective responsibility to terminate this practice if we desire a just society. I recommend a prison system institute reform that transitions from prison manufacturing as punishment to positive reinforcement. Furthermore, the post-prison support system needs additional changes to build on other successful prison reform initiatives. These would include building public-private prisoner-to-population partnerships focused on life improvement programs that reduce reincarceration by engaging with corporations using prison labor pools that pay those doing this work compensation in alignment with the outside job market. Establishing banking of their earned wages while incarcerated to provide financial support for their families during their time in prison, while banking some of this income to use for post-release financial support while they transition to the traditional workforce. Providing training while serving their time for eventual post-release employment with partnering manufacturing firms for high demand and well-compensated trades like electricians, machine repair, and machinists. In recent interviews with 11 local manufacturing operations, I've found a common theme. All are struggling to meet their needs for people with these and other manufacturing skill sets. Shifting towards a strength-based approach in prison manufacturing with a focus on what they do well as opposed to targeting their failures, and developing positive influencer networks of psychological support that place them in nurturing and supportive environments in prison and post-release. We can also support causes like the work of the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation, providing support of a study of the intersection of the U.S. prison system and foundations. Other organizations doing meaningful work is the Center of Justice and Reconciliation, which works in the restorative justice. The victim, offenders, and community members determine a solution to the inflicted harm, making amends, taking accountability, and when there's interest, meeting together can provide transformational results. Collectively, as we can all play a role in improving the current undesirable outcomes of the U.S. prison system. Imagine if you had to carry the worst mistake you made for the rest of your life. And it meant you could only experience a lack of opportunity, growth, and personal success at every turn. Instead of using manufacturing work as a punishment, it would be better structured as a reward. If the prison system partnered with corporations willing to reasonably support individuals while serving their time, and then when they return to society, particularly those most unfairly impacted by current practices, incarceration numbers should improve. A just approach using the recommendations above can lead to a solid post-incarceration employment doing meaningful work in manufacturing that provides a desirable life for the formerly imprisoned individual and their families. During my work to repair the stamping press at the prison, something happened that meant I was going to need to come back a second time. I commented to the prisoner working with me that this was going to cause me to waste a lot of time. He smiled and said to me, "I got a lot of time, so it's not a problem for me." How much better a result if his time was spent strengthening his eventual return as a citizen. My sincere hope is that you found what I shared to inspire you to take some form of action. So together, we can improve the lives of those not so different, but less unfortunate than ourselves. Thank you for listening.